Simplicity doesn't reduce your impact. It strengthens your ability to move forward with peace and consistency.
Welcome to the Flourish Podcast for faith-driven women who are ready to take responsibility for their health, time, and calling. I'm Stephanie Book, and I coach women to gain clarity, create simple systems, and build intentional structure so they can move forward with consistent, faith-led action in the work God is calling them to build. If you're ready to live and lead with alignment, peace, and purpose, this is the place for you. Let's begin.
Hey there, and welcome to the Flourish Podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm so glad that you are here. I have really enjoyed this conversation for the end of January through now as we've been talking about clarity, confidence, and follow through. Last week, we were talking a little bit about motivation and the difference between that motivation and having some structure. But today, we're going to take it a little bit of a different twist. And this might be difficult for you if you are someone that is very task-oriented, to look at things with simplicity, looking at things with a little bit different lens, because I am one of those girls. I love a system, a rhythm, a structure. Those are all great things, and they help us stay aligned to what we want to do. However, sometimes we have so many things on our plate, so much structure, so many systems that actually we feel stuck. We feel overloaded. And so today we're going to have that discussion about simplicity and what we can do to shift it a little bit so we can have a focus that is clear, that is more calm, that is focused, rather than having that overwhelm, that mind clutter, and all of the things that come when we're feeling that overload. So often, most women, they don't feel stuck because they're carrying too much. A lot of us are just big doers, but sometimes we are stuck because we're carrying too much. And I know that seems counterintuitive. It seems like opposite. Like, wait, you just said two opposite things, but it's true. Usually it's not that we are doing too much and that's what slows us down. If you are that A-type personality, or if you are a dreamer or a builder, you have a drive and you don't have problem doing all the things. But sometimes doing all the things dilutes the focus and it doesn't help us move forward the way that we want to. And so having that simplicity, bringing in those simple tasks, those simple rhythms, is going to really make a big difference. And though we have all the things on the plate we want to do, sometimes that slowing down allows us to go faster, allows us to move forward with more peace, more clarity, more confidence, and with the design that you want to really create in your life and your business. And really, there is a difference between acting and moving forward and actually making progress. And when you're doing all those different things, you can feel scattered inside. When everything feels important, that momentum, like I said, it gets diluted. You're moving, but your one direction isn't clear. You're busy, but you're not aligned. So simplicity doesn't shrink your life, though you think it will. It really just strengthens that momentum. So I know that you've been taught, if something feels heavy, the answer is to have that structure, have those goals, to have those plans, and that is what's needed. But like I said, I'm a big believer in that, but sometimes we need to take a shift and simplify. Overload has a cost, and we don't want to be in that sense of overwhelm or overload anymore. We want to have that clear, focus, aligned rhythm so that we can move into with simplicity and really have the focus that we need to grow. If you're constantly doing all the different things, your mind is switching gears. You're going back from one thing to the next thing to the next. You have that squirrel syndrome, right? Or how often do you walk into a room, and I'm one of those kind of people that I'm walking into the room, but I'm also holding 5 different things. Like, oh, I'll put this here, and on my way, I'll put this here. And we think we're being efficient. And I mean, sometimes some of those things are tasks that don't take a lot of brain power, but how often have you done all of those things along the way, and then you forgot the main reason that you went into the room in the first place because your mind was scattered with all those different things? So sometimes we might need to simplify it. Yes, it might take some extra steps for us to go back and grab the things that we need to put away, but then our focus might be diluted, and then we're no longer walking into the room doing the main thing we went in to do because we've been scattered. We've been looking at all those different things. And so that's where that simplicity comes. the overload could be remedied because we're not having to have such a full plate, but we can feel more aligned with the things we're wanting to do. I think that when we have so much on our plate, it really pulls our energy into those too many directions, like I said. And then we have that diluted focus. And a lot of times we'll even forget our main purpose, our main focus, because we're focusing on all of the things. And it's not the first time you've heard me talk about choosing one thing, one step forward, but I'm just talking like an overarching way of living our life in that idea of simplicity. It doesn't mean slow. It doesn't mean that you're not doing lots of things, but sometimes that simplicity will allow you to focus on the right things, choosing fewer things to steward well. When your focus is simpler, then your energy finally has somewhere to land. Then there's that less mental clutter. That momentum has room to grow because you're not holding on to all those things. Follow through often breaks down when your plate is too full. So it's not because you're inconsistent, but because everything feels equally important. And then that's just too much. You're spread too thin. But simplicity creates space for that follow through. It helps you decide what matters right now and what can wait. It helps you stop trying to be everywhere at once. So friends, I'm giving you permission right now. You don't have to be everywhere at once. You are not responsible for all of the things. Looking at the focus, looking at the one thing that's most important and really honing into that is what's going to make the difference. That is what's going to give you that momentum that you're looking for when we simplify and we make things just less overwhelming, less overloaded, less mental clutter, and just stepping into just what's right now for this season, exactly where you're meant to be. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of scripture. And if you are anyone like me, you've had a love-hate relationship. And I might have even talked about Mary and Martha on here before, because let's face it, it's definitely a passage that I go back to often. And so I thought I would read today from Luke 10, verses 38 to 42. If you are not new to the Bible, you probably know this passage. And I would say some of you are definitely a Martha, and some of you are definitely a Mary in this. And so let me read, and then we'll go from there. So it says, "Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me.' Anyone else feel that? But the Lord answered her, 'Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her.'" Okay. When I first heard this passage or I read this passage, I was like, wait a second. I am a Martha in that situation. I am one that I want to make sure I'm helping all the people. And all the things that Martha was doing are great. She was preparing a food. She was preparing a household to serve Jesus in that way. However, she became so wrapped up in the task of what she was doing that she lost the idea of the focus of what she was doing. All of the things that she was doing were good things, but her focus was diluted. She was no longer she was cluttered with all the tasks and the things to do rather than the main focus, which was honoring Jesus and welcoming him into her home. He was the whole reason she was doing all of it, but she didn't take any time to do that, to focus on that, because she was cluttered with all the things. And so this is not to make you feel bad. If you're someone that you are that task-oriented kind of person, you've got all these different things and you want to be a great hostess, all of those things were good. But when it all comes down to it, what was most important was spending the time with the Lord, honoring him. He didn't care about the meal. He wanted her presence. He wanted her to spend time and not worry about all those different things. And so I know that this is a Bible passage, and this is really helping us understand that we want to focus on the Lord. The Lord is our main focus. And so I just want to do a parallel of that as we are working in our business. And when we are cluttered, when we're looking at all those different things, our attention is diluted, and we might lose focus on what's most important. What is the main purpose we're doing all those things for in the first place? And so we can see how this comes together a little bit. And so I thought I would read a little bit, some from a commentary, and this is an older one. It's from Warren Wiersbe, but there's some good things in here. And so I thought I'd read a little bit this. I don't normally read all these different things, but I just thought this is what I needed to hear, so I wanted to share it with you as well. So it's talking a little bit about this passage here, and I'm just going to read bits and pieces of that. And it says here, he says, Mary and Martha are often contrasted as though each believer must make a choice, be a worker like Martha or a worshiper like Mary. Certainly our personalities and gifts are different, but that does not mean that the Christian life is an either-or situation. It seems evident the Lord wants each of us to imitate Mary in our worship and Martha in our work. Blessed are the balanced. Well, balanced in the sense of not they're equal, but something where we're being able to work for the Lord and also worship the Lord. Consider Martha's situation. She received Jesus into her home and then neglected him as she prepared an elaborate meal that he did not even need. Certainly a meal was in order, but what we do with Christ is far more important than what we do for Christ. Again, it's not an either-or situation. It's a matter of balance. Mary had done her share of the work in the kitchen and then had gone to feed on the Lord's teaching. This is assuming that she probably did help, and most likely she did do something because it says that she left her alone to do the rest. So Mary probably already had done some things, but once Jesus was there, her focus had shifted back to him. Right to him. Martha felt neglected after Mary left the kitchen, and she began to complain and to suggest that neither the Lord nor Mary even cared. Have you all been there? I don't know. I'm speaking from, I have been there. And you're just like, hello, everyone. Are you understanding what all I'm doing? I'm doing all of these things to prepare for you and blah, 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 right? All the tasks, all the things, right? I feel it. So if you're with me, you're feeling it too. So it says, few things are damaging to the Christian life as trying to work for Christ without taking time to commune with Christ. For without me, you can do nothing, John 15:5. Mary chose the better part, the part that could not be taken from her. She knew that she could not live by bread alone, Matthew 4:4. Whenever we criticize others and pity ourselves because we feel overworked, we had better take time to examine our lives. Perhaps in all our busyness, we have been ignoring the Lord. Martha's problem was not that she had too much work to do, but that she allowed her work to distract her and pull her apart. She was trying to serve two masters. If serving Christ makes us difficult to live with, then something is terribly wrong with our service. The key is to have the right priorities. Jesus Christ first, then others, then ourselves. It's vitally important that we spend time at the feet of Jesus every single day, letting him share his word with us. The most important part of the Christian life is a part that only God sees. Unless we meet Christ personally and privately each day, we soon end up like Martha, busy but not blessed. Okay. So I don't share any of that to make you feel bad or criticize the time that you spend with the Lord. But I talk about this a lot and how important to have that foundation. And when we are looking at simplifying all the things that we're doing, we always want to stay grounded, first of all, in Christ, and that we are seeking him for what's most important for us in the season that we're in, where he's calling us to go. And so that is important. And I know I'm talking about almost two different things, but really I feel like they align together so well, because when we're focused, when we are thinking about all those many different things, we lose the focus on what's most important. And so just like with Christ, as we are focusing on all the things that we're serving, maybe we're doing things all day long that allow us to serve the Lord. But if we are not taking the time to focus on him and spend time with him, all of those things really don't matter in the scope of things. Doesn't mean all those things you're doing are wrong. It just means that maybe the focus needs to be aligned. And so in our businesses, it's the same way. When we simplify and we look at what's most important and take some action steps to move toward that, our focus is more aligned, and then we have more impact, and we're able to step forward with more clarity, more purpose, and more rhythm without having that overload. Because God doesn't want us to feel overloaded. He wants us to trust him in the process and that he will lead us through, and surrender all of the extra things that we think that we need to do and just focus on him. And then we can do that with our business. And instead of thinking about all the 12 million things that we think we need to do, we could focus on what's the most important, what's going to move us forward. And then it just feels more peaceful, right? You can take a deep breath and think, okay, you don't have to feel scattered. You don't have to feel like frustrated with all the things that you need to do when you're focusing on what's most important. Hey there, I wanted to stop for just a moment to make sure that you know about my Flourish community. Inside the Flourish community, you'll find a place where women are connecting with one another. We're helping each other grow, inspiring each other with things that we're learning and growing from, and so much more. I put in special resources in there. I typically share some news on Thursday afternoons with the Flourish group separate, and that's just the place to be. And so I would love for you to be part of that. If you looking for a community of women who are wanting to grow, this is a great place for you. If you want to have a networking with other women that have a desire to serve others, this is a great place for you. And if you just want some encouragement, you just want to have a place where you felt like there's no pressure, but just a place to be seen and to be heard and to grow, I would love to have you come. So just put Flourish in the comments below, and I would love to be able to invite you there. It would be a great place for you to start connecting with me and connecting with other women as well. Jesus points out that Martha's attention was divided, not because she didn't love him, but because she didn't take time to honor him. She was trying to hold too much in that moment, just like we do all of the time. Mary was choosing what was most important. It wasn't she was being passive or irresponsible, but she was choosing what was most important. The focus for her was clear, and she didn't allow that clutter to get in her way. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is simplify and stay present in what matters the most. And so I hope that this story helps you see that simplicity is often bringing you that clarity, giving you that chance to do less so that you can choose what's best. I want to help you do that as we talk through the rest of this podcast, that we will walk through some different steps of maybe how we can start inviting in that simplicity into our life. I mean, we've got the foundation. I know already. I think I read in more, making sure that we are spending time in the Word. And I think that he was saying, Warren Wiersbe in this book, he was saying that how often he will meet with leaders or pastors or people that are going through a lot of things. And then he'll be like, well, how is your time with the Lord? And so often they'll be like, I stopped reading my Bible. Well, I'm not really praying anymore. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, but it's so easy to focus on all the things that we forget the most important. And so I hope that these steps will help you step into that simplicity without the pressure. I love to give you those reflection questions to help you work through this a little bit. So number one is, what feels heavier than it needs to be right now? Okay, so what is feeling heavy? What's something that really shouldn't feel as heavy as it is, but it is? It's weighing heavy on your heart. What is harder? What is heavier right now than it needs to be? Where does my mind feel cluttered? Okay, so do you feel cluttered in everything, or is it just your business, or is it in your health? Is it in your spiritual life? What feels cluttered? Is it your family life and what's going on there? Is everything feeling cluttered? What when your mind feels cluttered right now? Like, there's a good thing to step back and decipher what is pulling it, because we might think it's everything, but it might just be one area that's really making us cluttered and not allowing us to have the peace, not allowing us to have the focus, and then we talk about the season. So the next question is, what feels like a full plate that might not actually belong in the season? So as we're evaluating, what feels heavy right now? What is in here that's making me feel cluttered? And then maybe what are those things? Maybe that's something that I need to focus enough on. And so some of those other things don't need to be focused on for this season. That allows you to simplify. It doesn't mean that everything you're doing is wrong, but sometimes that diluted focus. I keep saying that, but when you're spread too far apart, you have too many things, all the stuff coming at you, you're running around like a chicken with their head cut off in the kitchen, trying to get it all done, right? For the guests that you've ignored because you weren't focused on what needed to be focused on in this season. And I'm not saying this to condemn you or make you feel bad if you are spreading yourself too thin, because we're all there. Believe me, I am speaking to myself when I have so many different things on my plate. And so that's why I'm so passionate about sharing these things with you, because when I take that time to focus, when I have a clear idea of what I'm going towards, when I'm aligned with what God is telling me to do and the things that are in front of me, when I'm not allowing all the noise, all that mind clutter, all the overload to rule what I'm doing, it makes such a difference. And there's that peace, there's that breath that you get to take and not feel overloaded. So I would love to take this and just sit with this for a little bit. And think about that as you're working through these questions, as you're thinking about where your focus is and if it needs to be dialed in, and answering those questions that we just talked about. But remind yourself that simplicity isn't about removing responsibility, okay? It's about choosing fewer points of responsibility to steward well. So you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a clear focus that you can actually sustain, right? We want to make sure that what we're choosing to do is something that is going to move us forward with simplicity rather than pressure, overwhelm, overload, mental clutter, whatever word you want to use for it. So let's this week choose one area to simplify, remove maybe one unnecessary layer, and then create one small, repeatable rhythm around it. Here is a simple rhythm we can use to simplify. So this week, I want you to choose one area to simplify. Whatever it is, what's one area that you can simplify? After you've kind of answered some of those questions that we talked before in the episode, let me read them again. What feels heavier than it needs to be right now? Where does my mind feel cluttered? And what feels like a full plate that might not actually belong in this season? So as you've gone through that, then you can go through and choose one area to simplify. Remove one unnecessary layer that you've discovered, and then create one small repeatable rhythm that you can work on as you're choosing that one area to simplify. So you find that area to simplify, maybe cut out something that doesn't need to be here right now in this season, and then create one small repeatable rhythm that you can do to help start implementing the one thing you're going to focus on. Okay? So this could be like choosing the main focus for your week instead of 5. How many times have you heard me say that, right? It could be like pausing one project instead of pushing everything forward at once. It could look like creating a simple rhythm for something you've been avoiding because it feels too heavy, right? So those are all different areas, but there's still things that we can choose to focus on, like looking at one thing that we want to focus on, maybe removing a layer or something that is taking up clutter that doesn't need your attention right now, and then building that small rhythm to start working on that one thing that you want to create, that you're focused on. And it will help you feel more aligned. Things will feel more simple. It doesn't mean that all the things are still not there, but somehow you make it. I promise you, as you step in with that clarity and with the focus and those simple rhythms, you are going to feel better, and you actually will make more progress. Momentum grows when movement is repeatable. It's not impressive. It's not when it's impressive. It's not when you've done all the things. It's not to have that badge of honor or the to-do list that every little check mark is clicked and checked off, right? It's allowing you to have that rhythm so that you have that simplicity, so that it feels more like you're sitting at Jesus's feet, like Mary is, with your one focus, clear, no worries around you. Nothing else matters because you're focused on that thing. And so we want to have that same kind of feelings, and we don't want to feel scattered like Martha, but focused like Mary. If you've been feeling weighed down or overloaded, there are some simple clarity tools that I have put together for you. I've been talking about the Steadfast bundle for a little bit, and this will really help you, especially as you want to connect more with God and connect Him with your purpose, and just need some rhythms built there inside that bundle. There's the Steadfast season. There's a whole Trello board, and I've talked a lot about that, but it's a great resource. It's free for you, and I would love to have you grab that, because it will give you that chance to really work through some of these things and find that momentum with simplicity, which I know you would love to have. And then if you want a little bit more help, maybe with goal and planning, knowing that this is my clarity, I've got that down, but I want to have sustainable action without that pressure, that goal and planning bundle will be a great resource for you. That's only $17, so you can grab that inside the show notes. And again, it's a tool that I put together to really help you. And inside there, I put 7 days of audio that you can listen to that just kind of helps you as you are planning, as you are focused, as you are finding that clarity. These are all about not doing more, but just tools to help you move forward. So sometimes, I know for me, having that little bit of a guide, having a resource that helps me move forward, that I actually open up and use, really can make a difference. And it takes some of that pressure away. We have a lot of pressure on ourselves every single day. So I know that these tools and other things that I have, or other people that you follow, they are given to you because we want you to be able to succeed. These resources aren't about making you do more, but helping you do the things that you are already doing with a simplified version, with a little more clarity and a less overload. So before we go, I just want to remind you that simplicity doesn't reduce your impact, okay? It strengthens your ability to move forward with peace and consistency. You don't have to carry everything to be faithful. You just need to carry what's most important to you in this season. You steward where it is that God is leading you. And so I hope that this is helpful to you. Take a look at where your focus is, what you're looking at. Are you approaching everything like Martha, where you're scattered? Or are you focused on the most important like Mary? I don't say any of this to make you feel bad or judge yourself. None of that is what it's about, because I would say 99% of the time, I probably relate more to Martha than I do Mary. But I strive to be more and more like Mary every day, where I am focus on the most important, putting God first, and then aligning what I'm doing towards what He wants me to do, and then having that focus so that I can approach the things with my best self, with my movement forward in a way that's going to honor the Lord and serve the people that I care about. So friends, I truly hope this was helpful to you. As always, please share this with anyone that you think it would be helpful to. Any friends that are Marys or Marthas out there, hopefully this would be an encouragement to them as well. Just remember that you are worthy and capable of living a full and flourishing life. Success isn't just possible, it's meant for you. Take care.
Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, I invite you to take one simple, intentional step forward. You will find many resources linked in the show notes to support you as you build with clarity and faith-led action. If this conversation resonated with you, please share the podcast so that this message can reach other women who are ready to move forward with purpose. Until next time, remember, you are worthy and capable of living a full and flourishing life. Success isn't just possible, it's meant for you.